Welcome back to Hardball. Herman Cain is the GOP's newest frontrunner, and he's forcing many in the Republican Party to give him a second look. According to the latest CNN ORC poll today, nearly two-thirds of the Republicans say they have not made up their minds about whom to support. And Mitt Romney is statistically tied with Herman Cain at 26, his 25. Rick Perry has taken a 17-point dive in the last month and is in third place with 13%. Is Herman Cain the Republican Party's Superman? Can he sustain a campaign? Haley Barbour is the Republican governor of Mississippi, a former Republican National Committee chairman. Governor Barbour, I'm a student of your party, if not a member of it, and I do wonder what's going on. You've had one candidate after another come up to challenge Mitt Romney and to do a pretty good job while they're on top, basically one-on-one with him, and then fade. And here we have basically a head-to-head now with Herman Cain. Could Cain actually beat Romney countrywide?
Well, could he? Sure. Of course he could. The fact of the matter is the Republicans have a feel. We don't have the typical front runner, as so often is the case for Republican nominations. And Republicans are very patiently and I think prudently looking at each one of these guys to learn more about them. They like some of the things they learn, some of the things maybe not as much. But I think this is a matter of Republicans not being in nearly as big a hurry as the news media. The news media, and I'm not being critical, but the news media wants this thing to be going full blast. A lot of people on our side are saying, I got plenty of time. I'm going to take my time because I want to make sure we nominate somebody that beats Barack Obama.
I agree with what you said when you said that about a month ago, Governor, but there's nobody else getting in, it looks like. And so they're basically looking at, do I want coffee or tea right now? They can't decide which one. Is it that they don't want either one? Is it they don't want Perry because, they don't want Perry, it looks like right now. They don't want Cain because he's untested. He's a business guy with no political background. And they don't think Romney's a true conservative, it seems to me. How else can you explain why they can't pick Romney, who's been around? Why wouldn't you pick a guy you've been watching for 7 or 8 years now? Why wouldn't you pick him?
The fact of the matter is, Rick Perry's been the governor of the second biggest state in the country for quite a long time, but he's still not very well known by the average voter, even the average Republican. Mitt Romney's not that well known by the average Republican, average voter. Of course, Herman Cain, some of the others are brand new to most voters. I just think people are being patient and taking their time is the main thing going on here because they realize this election is an election with incredibly high stakes.
If I look at the candidates who are in the race and I compare them to the ones who aren't in, Mitch Daniels, Haley Barbour, Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, the list of people not in this race on the Republican side outweigh, in a lot more ways than one, the people who are in the race. And I mean that positively. Don't you think your team of candidates who chose not to run would crush who chose to run?
Well, I'm flattered and you're very generous.
Well, it's true.
But the fact of the matter is,
it's true.
Well,
you and Jeb Bush and Mitch Daniels have so much weight on these guys that are running. It's unbelievable. Mitch's a credible candidate, but these other guys, they're not going to be president, are they?
I bet a lot of people in 1991, 1992 were saying the same thing about Bill Clinton. Why didn't some of the heavyweights run for the Democratic nomination? Or Jimmy Carter in 1975 and 76?
Well, we're smarter now.
The more these guys...
Can I ask you a question? Here's Cain talking about the border fence. Tell me if this qualifies him for president. Here he is talking about a serious problem, illegal immigration in this country. Everybody has some solution to it. Let's watch his.
We'll have a real fence, 20 feet high with barbed wire, electrified, with a sign on the other side that says, "It can kill you."
Well, there's a good neighbor policy. Think about it. 20 feet high from the Atlantic to the Pacific, electrified, and it says it can kill you. That's our message to the entire southern part of this hemisphere. It can kill you.
Yeah. Well,
is he serious?
I had read a story about this. Where people were criticizing Cain because they said he acted like he wanted to kill people. It sounds to me from hearing the rendition that I just heard that what he was actually saying is we would warn people that this is dangerous and they don't need to come to it. Whether you agree that that's the right way to do it or not, we have to secure the border of the United States.
Sure.
And in some places, fencing is a very good way to do that. In other places, we'll do it with technology, with cameras, with drones, with motion sensors. And, of course, we'll have to have a lot of boots down. But there is no question that there are certain parts of the United States, particularly in the urban areas, where you've got an urban area on both the north and the south side of the border, that a fence is a very effective way.
Would you put up a 20-foot-high electrified fence anywhere across our border? Electrified. It says this can kill you. Would you do that?
Well,
anyway,
I don't think past experience, I think, shows us you don't have to have an electrified fence.
So you wouldn't do it?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with having an electrified fence.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to have one that would actually kill people, though it might get some people's attention if they thought it might.
Okay, well, let's listen to what President Obama had to say last month on the issue of fair taxes, and then we're going to play you what another prominent Republican had to say, besides you, about the same issue.
And that's why this plan eliminates tax loopholes that primarily go to the wealthiest taxpayers and biggest corporations. It is wrong that in the United States of America, a teacher or a nurse or a construction worker who earns $50,000 should pay higher tax rates than somebody pulling in $50 million.
We're going to close the unproductive tax loopholes that have allowed some of the truly wealthy to avoid paying their fair share. In theory, some of those loopholes were understandable, but in practice, they sometimes made it possible for millionaires to pay nothing, while a bus driver was paying 10% of his salary, and that's crazy. It's time we stopped it.
Well, that's President Reagan, as you remember, making the case for tax reform, which he succeeded in getting, actually, in '85. What do you think of the comparison of the two? It sounds familiar, both of them.
Well, I think it was '86.
Well, the bill was
fact of the
passed. That
matter
was
is,
him in
Ronald
85.
Reagan. The fact is, the Reagan bill cut rates. It reduced rates to two rates. Obama wants to add rates and then make the rates go higher, 5.5% higher, with 12% increase. There is no excuse for a system that allows people that make enormous amounts of money to pay no taxes. There also is no excuse for a system where half the people in the country pay no income taxes. That's why I thought the president's own commission, the Simpson-Bowles Commission, came out with a perfectly reasonable plan that would have lowered rates even lower than Reagan did, while eliminating, broadening the tax system. So there's a huge difference between what Ronald Reagan was saying and what Barack Obama was saying and proposing.
But do you think it's fair to pay 15% taxes on capital gains and 35% on sweat work?
Well, people don't pay 35% on, quote, sweat work if you're talking about that's some kind of hard labor.
Salaried income is 35% taxed, whereas money income is
like
15% taxed.
I misunderstood you. I thought you meant sweat literally. You mean like being a TV host. Yeah,
something like
pay
that.
35%.
I'm trying to include us all, including governors and other people. I'm talking anybody that gets paid a salary. Why should they pay a higher rate than people that get money off of money?
Most of the countries in the world either tax capital gains at a lesser rate than us or at no tax at all, because they want people to invest their money in job creation, in technology. And our capital gains tax rate, when they were lowered to 15%, actually increased the amount of revenue that was collected by the United States government. And you remember what Barack Obama told Charlie Gibson about that on national television. Even though raising the rate for capital gains would decrease the amount of money that the government took in, it was a matter of fairness.
Okay. I heard that.
Well, I think the policy of this country is a policy that creates more jobs.
Okay.
And capital gains help create more jobs.
Well, I'm with the Buffett rule myself, but thank you, Governor Haley Barbour. You always seem reasonable, or at least you sound reasonable. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming.
I'm going to take that as a compliment, Chris.
It is what. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not